Hello and welcome to Direct Initiative, the podcast where we talk about direct democracy and the importance of ballot measures. I'm Alex Kawa, and today we're going to be talking about Massachusetts, which just as part of their newly adopted state budget for the upcoming fiscal year, has become the latest state to guarantee universal school meals to all children. Now, this is absolutely phenomenal news, and like I said, many states have done this, including Minnesota, California, Colorado, etc., but in Massachusetts now they've done it, and it's part of the Fair Share Amendment, which was actually passed at the ballot box by voters last year. We'll get to what that means in a minute, but first let's go over what this means, what the passage of free school meals and why it's important. The guarantee for free school lunches in Massachusetts comes at an opportune time for families, with budgets stretched thin by inflation and as food insecurity is on the rise. Late last year, as a COVID-19 pandemic relief program that funded free breakfast and lunch for U.S. school children expired, renewing financial hardship and hunger concerns for many American families. Anti-hunger advocates have urged lawmakers to expand school meal programs, noting that research has shown that hunger can hurt a kid's performance in school. A May study from the Greater Boston Food Bank found that 33% of Massachusetts households were food insecure in 2022. 33%. So an entire one-third of houses in Massachusetts were food insecure just last year. That is unacceptable. And this isn't some failure of the parents, as some conservative commentators might lead you to believe, oh, the parents can just feed their kids. You really think that obviously there are some terrible parents out there that would let their kids starve, but you really think that's the majority of kids who are hungry? You really think that the majority of the parents are just starving their kids? No, they genuinely can't afford it, and this will help them out tremendously. And so this is fantastic news. Well done, Massachusetts. As kind of a half Bay Stater now, given I spend most of my year in Massachusetts. That's where I go to college. I'll be back in a week. This makes me incredibly happy to see. Now, I want to get to what allowed this to pass. Like I said, it was the Fair Share Amendment that was passed by the voters at the ballot box last fall. And as explained in this article, a new 4% tax on the state's wealthiest residents will account for $1 billion of the state's $56 billion fiscal budget for 2024, according to state documents. A portion of those funds will be used to provide all public school students with free weekday meals, according to State House News Service. The new tax, which was approved by voters last year and went into effect in 2023, applies to Massachusetts residents with incomes over $1 million. The new tax adds an extra 4% on earnings above that threshold, making the state's income tax rate one of the highest in the U.S. Massachusetts millionaires tax comes as some other Democratic-run states are seeking to bolster their finances through proposed wealth taxes, with the goal of funding social programs such as free school lunches for children. Proponents of wealth taxes argue that the richest Americans have grown their wealth partly due to tax breaks that are available to low and middle income families, and thus additional taxes on the rich are needed. With its new budget, which was signed into law by Governor Maura Healey last week, Massachusetts is now the 7th state to provide free school lunches to kids since COVID-19 funding for free school meals expired. So, as you can see, when given the choice, the voters chose, hey, let's raise taxes on millionaires who, they need to pay an additional 4% of their income. So above 1 million, not even 4% of their total income, just 4% of their income above $1 million. So just take that into consideration. Let's say you were worth $2 million. That is 1 million over 2 million. So 4% of 1 million is $40,000. And really, when you have $2 million, that's not that much in the grand scheme of things. And if it's going towards programs like this that are going to undoubtedly benefit children who are struggling, then I think I would take that in a heartbeat. And it's not just free school meals that are going to be happening as a result of this budget. It's also free community college for people 25 and over for now, but hopefully in the future this will allow for totally free community college for everybody in Massachusetts, as well as improvements in infrastructure and transportation, including the MBTA. And that's what specifically the Fair Share Amendment was designed to do. It wanted to raise taxes with a purpose. It wanted to explicitly direct those funds to go towards infrastructure, and education, which are some of the best investments that any state can make. But obviously, because this is an inherently populist ballot measure and anti-rich, it encountered a lot of opposition from the wealthy, who actually did a pretty decent fear-mongering campaign about it, as evidenced by the fact that this only barely passed in what is one of the bluest states in the country. And I chronicled a lot of this in a documentary I made about this ballot measure. I did it for a film class I took, and I posted it on YouTube last December. I'll leave it in the YouTube card if you want to check it out. But just to give you a brief rundown, Jacobin has a good summary on it, and that is this. The opposition campaign, funded by billionaires including New Balance's Jim Davis and Patriots owner Robert Kraft, was aggressive, and the contest was close. 52% of Massachusetts voters ratified the amendment. Raise Up Massachusetts, the group in charge of the campaign, had almost secured a victory on the Fair Share Amendment back in 2015, when the group collected 150,000 signatures and passed it at 2 state constitutional conventions, but corporate interests responded by mounting a lawsuit that successfully removed the amendment from the ballot on a procedural technicality. Fair Share Amendment campaigners faced a well-funded opposition that spent millions on misleading television ads. Corporate entities like Cross Harbor Capital Partners, a Boston investment firm that spent $500,000 trying to defeat the amendment, mobilized to prevent the door from opening to further taxation of the rich in the future. Prominent members of the pro-corporate Massachusetts Competitive Partnership, like Ron O'Hanley and Jeffrey Leiden, donated large sums against the effort as well. The corporate-funded opposition played on anti-government sentiment to craft arguments against taxing the rich. Even though the amendment constitutionally requires that the funds raised through the income tax be spent on education and infrastructure, opponents claim that the state legislature couldn't be trusted with the public's money. When those arguments didn't work, the opposition coalition turned to classic homeowner populism and claimed that the amendment would double the income tax for people who sell their homes. However, Fair Share Amendment activists were easily able to show that very few homeowners would actually be affected by this. Last year, only 800 out of 100,000 houses that were sold would have received an additional tax under the amendment. So obviously, thanks to a bunch of corporate propaganda, the misinformation was able to stick with a lot of working class folks, like people who are not rich, and as a state representative, Jim O'Day of Massachusetts, who had introduced this in the legislature because it was the legislature that placed it on the ballot, told me in my interview with him, which again, you can watch in the documentary. I know I'm plugging it a lot here, but gives you a lot of relevant information about this. I told him about how driving through central Massachusetts, which is where I go to school and where I worked this last semester, I saw a lot of vote no on question 1 signs, lawn signs in people's yards. And as he told me, those signs are not in the lawns of millionaires. They're working class Joes and Janes who have fallen for the propaganda, unfortunately, and have been tricked into voting against their own self-interests and against things that will actually help them. And thankfully, while it didn't work, it clearly almost did. And this is definitely something to be careful about, is corporate propaganda in ballot measures. And I have a feeling we're going to be talking about this quite a bit more as this podcast progresses, because there are plenty of astroturfed, even initiative campaigns. Forget legislative ballot measures like this one. There are plenty of corporations who astroturf campaigns to get something onto the ballot via the initiative process, completely abusing the process that was designed to put power in the hands of the people who have had it taken away from them because of corporate capture of government. But this also is a sign of hope and goes to show that when you give people the option of voting on a certain issue, they will pick the right way, as we keep seeing over and over again, as I bring up examples of these. But in this case, they will make the decision to say, hey, millionaires, and you should be paying a little bit more so that we can fund social programs that will help out people in need, as we're seeing now. And like I mentioned in a previous episode, I think the campaigns, the ballot measure campaigns, have the chance to build class consciousness among the people, and they understand, like, hey, we're coming from similar backgrounds here, and we want what's best for each other. And they have their common enemy, the rich, in this case. And if that class consciousness and class solidarity can continue to build, as we've been seeing over the past couple of years, then I think that the corporate propaganda can definitely be drowned out to an even bigger degree than it was here in Massachusetts. But in the end, once again, of course, it's great that the Fair Share Amendment passed, And it's great that it's now being used to do good things like this. Free school meals, free college. Fantastic. And hopefully we'll see more of this. I have a feeling we will. But again, make that happen. Like, if you live in an initiative state, then try to get something like this on the ballot. And you'll find there are a lot of people out there who think similarly to how you do, and they will want to help you with this. Thank you all very much for listening. If you enjoyed and you're on YouTube, then please like and subscribe to the channel. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please follow and leave a good review. And I will see everybody soon. I'm Alex Kawa, and this is Direct Initiative.